Okay, let's talk about 14.4, solving proportions. Does that sound familiar? It should, because we already learned a little bit about solving proportions in 14.3. So let's review how we did that. So when we solve proportions, you want to see if you can find the equivalent ratio. That is usually the easiest if it's possible. And remember, you want to ask yourself before you even, if it's too hard, can one of the ratios be reduced? That might help you find the equivalent ratio. So if you can't find the equivalent ratio, if you can't reduce one of the ratios to help you do that, then you're gonna probably need to resort to cross products. So remember, cross products are equal. So find those cross products, put in an equal sign, and solve the equation. So some of this we did in 14.3. They're just gonna become a little bit harder in 14.4. Okay, so if I went too fast there, push pause, get it copied before we jump into our problems. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, 9 to 5 equals A over 20. 9 is to 5 as A is to 20. That would be how we would read it. So how do we get from 5 to 20? Well, we need to multiply by 4. Okay, so we do the same thing to the numerator and denominator to find my equivalent ratio. 9 times 4 is 36, which means the value of A is 36. So here would be my answer. Okay, number 2. $30 is to 20 as W is to 14. Well, I don't know how to get from 20 to 14, but what I do want to check is if one of my ratios can be reduced, and it can. 30 and 20 can both be divided by 10, so my equivalent ratio is 3 to 2. Drop in the second half of our proportion. Now I can find my equivalent ratio. 2 times 7 is 14. When we find our equivalent ratios, 3 times 7 is 21, so the value for W is 21. Number 3. Four is to 24, as C is to 36. Again, I don't know how to get from 24 to 36, but I do know that this ratio can be reduced. So these are both divisible by 4, divided by 4, and my equivalent ratio is 1 to 6. Drop in the second half of our proportion. 6 times 6 makes 36. We find our equivalent ratio by doing the same to the numerator and the denominator. 1 times 6 is 6, so the value for C is 6. Okay, let's step it up a notch. Number 4. Okay, so let's try something like this. 5 is to 2 as D minus 2 is to 4. Okay, so when you have problems like this, here's my recommendation. It's not the only way to solve. We know there's multiple methods, so if you have your own method and it works every time, you just go ahead and use that, okay? But what I recommend is inserting parentheses, okay? this number, this solution here, d minus 2, whatever that equals, that's the numerator, okay? So then, once you put it in parentheses, you're gonna use cross products. So I'm gonna write this note in here for you. Insert parentheses. That would be step 1. Step 2, use cross products. So let's see what that looks like, okay? So this means I have to multiply 2 by the quantity d minus 2. That's the first cross product. The second cross product is 5 times 4, which is 20, and we know cross products have to be equal. Okay, now this might be a little complicated, but it's definitely doable. Okay, so we can use our distributive property. 2 times d is 2d. Drop down subtraction. 2 times 2 is 4. Drop in our equals and our 20. Now we have a two-step equation that we already know how to solve. So we undo addition and subtraction first. So add 4 to each side. And I'm left with 2d equals 24. Then we undo multiplication and division. So divide by 2. And we get d equals 12. Okay? Let's try another one. Okay, number 5. Let's do 2x over 5 equals 9 over 15. Okay, so what I would do to this problem first, and you don't have to, but I recommend it, always check to see if you can reduce a ratio first, which in this case, we can. These can be divided by 3, okay? If you don't reduce your ratio, you're still gonna get it right. You're just gonna be working with bigger numbers, okay? So 9/15 reduces to 3/5, and then drop in the other half of the proportion. And then from here, you need to use cross products to solve, okay? So cross products will always be equal in proportions because those ratios are equal. So let's work it out. 5 times 3 is 15. There's one cross product, and it doesn't matter which one you put on which side, it really doesn't. And 5 times 2x is 10x, okay? And then to solve our equation, we divide by 10, we divide by 10, 15 divided by 10 is 1.5. Okay, I hope that helped. That's it for 14.4.